Alright, see this Mopar? This is the right size for your retro muscle car. Yes, it's still big, but you know what? It doesn't feel like a yacht that you're trying to navigate on back roads. 2011 Chevrolet Camaro SS, the right size for your retro muscle car. The fifth generation of Chevrolet Camaro was the return of Chevrolet's famous muscle car, and GM's crack at the retro muscle car that had become all the rage with the S127 Mustang. That Mustang came at exactly the right moment, and was possibly the best example of the retro styling that the American makes were applying everywhere for that sweet, sweet boomer nostalgia. Ford's previous attempt at something retro, the Thunderbird, well, was certainly a thing aimed at the first-gen Thunderbird. But their next attempt, the S127 Mustang, was inspired by the original Mustang and immediately took the world by storm. While cars like the 4th-gen Camaro and Firebirds and the then-current closest rival, the rebadged old Monero sold as the Pontiac GTO, featured contemporary designs for that time period, Ford's Remember the 60s Mustang immediately tanked sales of the Jelly Bean-esque GTO, despite Pontiac making all the right moves with that car. After a disappointing 3-year run of the GTO, GM immediately went back to the drawing board. Their next Mustang fighter would fight retro fire with retro fire. After the 4th-gen Camaro unceremoniously departed after 2002, the Camaro would return with the retro styling of its own. Inspired by the 1967 original, the first concept debuted at the 2006 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Designed by South Korean designer Sang-Yup Lee, the 2006 Camaro concept was awarded Best in Show by the Auto Week editors. Finally, after lengthy delays in development due to GM's bankruptcy and the 2008 global financial crisis, the 5th generation Camaro would finally go on sale in 2010 in all its retro glory. From the pointed nose, the little hash marks in front of the rear tires, and the dash focusing on the tack and speedo, all the way to the exaggerated rear haunches and rear glass. While retro in design, it's very much of its time. Unlike the Dodge Challenger, which debuted around the same time and focused entirely on recreating the original on big chonk modern lines, the Camaro at least tried to be a little more modern. Underneath the hood of this Camaro SS is the 6.2-liter LS3 V8, and it's attached to Tremec's TR6060 6-speed manual. The Tremec sends power to the rear wheels via an independent rear suspension, a huge step forward in the muscle car game. While muscle cars are always known for having solid rear axles for simplicity's sake and drag strip strength, Chevrolet took things to the 21st century by offering independent rear suspension to assist in other aspects of driving, such as cornering. This particular Camaro has also had every available option at the time checked off, so it comes with everything from a sunroof to the heads-up display. Moving on, like every good Camaro owner, this one has made some modifications to his. Underneath the hood, he's installed an AEM intake, speed engineering 1 7/8 long tube headers, and a muffler in cat delete. Inside he has an MGW short throw shifter and a steering wheel out of a 2015 Camaro to replace the god-awful original wheel of the 2011. Aside from that, he's lowered it 1 inch, installed MRR Z28 replica wheels, Brembo brakes, he's debadged it, and he's installed tinted taillights and side markers. This car has always kind of been a daily, even since before he owned it, so the paint isn't exactly in the best condition. It's actually kind of rough, but he does intend on getting it corrected someday. The only other real plans for it are a cam and 410 gears in the near future. His mild mods at the moment are good for 409 horsepower to the rear wheels, a fact that he's backed up by providing the chart of his dyno pool, instead of simply boasting numbers without any receipts. So, driving impressions. As a driving experience, I much prefer the 2011 Camaro SS over the 2015 Challenger RT. The Challenger is just so freaking huge that it's so out of place on twisty country roads. The Camaro, at least, is smaller, hugs the corners, and has much more precise steering. The LS3 roars to life, and due to the factory 345 gearing, the torque doesn't really kick in until above 3000 RPM. The Tremec Trans does require some abuse to shift smoothly, but it's something you get used to after about 10 minutes of driving. The clutch is delightfully easy, but the shifting still is a little funky. Of course, it does grind just a bit when it's cold, but that goes away as soon as you warm it up. Common issue for Tremecs. This car is fun to drive and fast. Unlike the base C6 Corvette, while being a good car in its own right, didn't excite me at lower speeds, the 5th Gen Camaro SS actually provides that fizzy feeling that was sadly missing from my experience with the C6. This is a fantastic backroad beater, and it brought all sorts of smiles to my face. Now, as fun as it is to drive, the 5th Gen Camaro does suffer from a lot of packaging issues. A lot. While the Challenger is dumb because it's just so damn big, the 2011 Camaro has a lot of dumb that would prevent it from being something I could live with. The owner of the car is a much smaller guy than me, and he stated that he's the proper size for the car. He's not joking. The 5th Gen Camaro is not tall guy friendly. With the sunroof, my head is only about an inch from the ceiling, which of course means hitting a nice big bump or expansion joint on a bridge means my head is immediately hitting the ceiling. The optional heads-up display is a lifesaver, as the regular speedometer is far from the easiest thing to read on the fly. Without the HUD, you find yourself pulling your eyes off the road for longer than absolutely necessary just to read your speed. The fancy gauges that are underneath the center stack? Completely useless while driving. My right leg completely covers up the left two gauges, and the other two require you to completely pull your eyes from the road. Yeah. Don't really know why these are here other than aesthetics. The seats, despite providing plenty of ample room for one's buttocks, are narrow at the top and provide little support for wide shoulders like mine. Oh my god, visibility is atrocious. Like, holy shit, the blind spots are absolutely scary in this thing. The giant haunches mean you cannot see out of the back while trying to reverse, leaving you to judge everything off your side mirrors. It's kind of like backing up a trailer, an enclosed trailer. Because of the low roof, the windshield opening is short, and I often found myself slouching just a touch to see. Reminder, I am 6'3". As big as this car is, it's fairly cramped. As bad as the Challenger's interiors was, I at least fit comfortably in it. Anyways, the rear seats are fairly useless, and the latch to fold down the front ones to get to the back are these awkward little ones in the center of the back seat, instead of, a little lever at the bottom that every two-door car has for rear seat access. And yeah, they're not well matched. I had to ask to see where they were. And the trunk, of course, has an incredibly tiny opening, despite how much cargo space it actually carries. And despite all of these complaints, the 5th Gen Camaro is still a fun car. It actually has a usable size, unlike the Challenger, and it generates a much more visceral feel on the back roads over a baseball C6 Corvette. Unfortunately, it has some shortcomings that prevent it from being something I could personally live with. It's sold really well, it's had a myriad of special editions and performance variants over the years, and of course that meant 2016 saw the introduction of a 6th generation, which refined a lot of the complaints of the 5th gen. The Camaro is an American icon, just as much as its arch-rival, the Ford Mustang. As more and more of these cars hit the used market, they've become track day darlings as they can take a crap ton of abuse with minimum modifications. Like any good American muscle car, they're cheap to upgrade and even cheaper to maintain. 2011 Chevrolet Camaro SS. It's a fun car, but be prepared to make some sacrifices if you want to live with it. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. This episode comes courtesy of Noah of Belmont, North Carolina. Noah also supplied the square body Chevy truck in episode 34 and has been a huge supporter of the show. Huge shout out to him. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on Wookie Drives, feel free to submit an email to the link on the screen. That's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the official Facebook page for channel updates and follow my Twitter and Instagram for more Wookie shenanigans. Finally, hit that like button, share with all your friends, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more Wookie Drives like these. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.
Come on down to Al Chevy on Route 1 for my post-Super Bowl extravaganza sale. Touchdown! Tomorrow we're smashing prices. All right, back up! Whoa, are you serious? He's gonna come up! No, look at there! Oh, that's gonna hurt tomorrow. That is nuts.
Never mess with a Chevy, dude.